2 weeks ago to the day, at least if you're watching this video the day it's published, my truck, my F150 Lightning Lariat extended range, known as Adira Tal after the Star Trek character of the same name, met an untimely demise. I had woken up early and was ahead of my work schedule, and I heard some good news about Tesla opening up the supercharger network to Ford F150 Lightnings and Ford Mustang Mach-E owners. And so I decided, as I had a NACS to CCS adapter, that I would take my truck for a little bit of a drive to drain the battery pack a little so that later on in the morning I could go to a Tesla supercharger and film firsthand the experience and chronicle what it was like to charge an F150 Lightning using a Tesla supercharger and a NACS adapter. So I went for a drive. I went north of where I live, up the mountain, about twice as high up as I live, and unbeknownst to me, overnight, while we'd had lots of rain at my home, up the mountain, they'd had lots of rain, followed by a very heavy freeze very early in the morning. And by the time I was driving up there on a section of road that was gravel rather than tarmac, I was driving on fresh snow that was on top of sheet ice. Despite driving at 20 miles an hour, despite driving appropriately for the conditions and having winter tyres on, I hit a section of road with a gradual downhill where I lost all traction. I couldn't change direction and I couldn't brake. And my truck came off the road and hit the guy wire for a power line. Ultimately, the guy wire snagged around the passenger side step on the truck, pulled taut, slashed the door quite badly, and ultimately pulled the power pole on top of my truck, crushing the cab and breaking the panoramic glass sunroof and the rear window. If you watch the live streams from the time, you'll know that the accident shook me up quite badly, especially as I learned after the accident that the power was still live. I hadn't even noticed that there were power cables on the ground, and well, I must have rolled a D20 that day because I was able to safely exit my truck, get home, notify the emergency services, and get both the truck towed and also myself taken care of at a local urgent care clinic. But it's now 2 weeks later, and I've got an update. I said I wasn't going to make another video on the truck until I knew more about the accident, and today I've got that update. So, stick around, and I'll give you all the information you need to know, plus introduce you to the vehicle that we are replacing Adira Tal with. Yep, I got myself another F150 Lightning. I apologise to those of you who wanted me to get a Cybertruck or a Rivian or a Kia EV9 or insert make and model of vehicle here. I also want to apologise to those of you who thought that I should have purchased Adira Tal from the insurance company and then rebuilt Adira Tal and put back on the road. And we do try and recycle and reuse as much as possible on this channel, but I want to come to Adira's repairability a little bit later on in this video. To start with, the important stuff. First off, my hand is not broken. It is in a splint. I have been cleared to drive. As far as we can tell, I haven't broken any bones, but because of the pain I have in my thumb, they've ordered an MRI, which I'm going to be getting in about 4 weeks' time. And then after that, hopefully, they'll say, you're fine, you can take the splint off and go about your day, which would be lovely because I haven't realised how much my thumb gets used for. Even driving with a splint has required a little adjustment on my part. And I normally have been taking my wife's Chevrolet Bolt because it has comma and it's a little bit easier to drive. Today, though, I am driving this truck, my new truck, to our friends at Fresh Start Detail. They are in Beaverton and highly recommend them. this is not a sponsored video or anything, but if you're in the Portland area and you want to get your EV either ceramic coated or clear coat wrapped, the guys at Fresh Start Detail do both of those. We've actually done a little video in the past talking to them about protecting your EV's future value with the clear coat and or ceramic. And after they heard that I had wrecked Adira Tal, I reached out to them, said, hey, can I come back and have the same product put on my new truck? And they said, of course. And it turns out that they were able to fit me in today, which is one day after I spoke to them. So I'm heading down there now, going to drop off the new truck for a few days, and then my truck will be fully protected. After the accident, the vehicle was towed, and later that afternoon we went and just pulled out my effect. So, you know, my fluffy animals and some of my personal items that were in Adira. Once we'd pulled all of those out, we then went back home. I wasn't in a fit state to rip out the bed rug or anything like that, and my wife definitely wasn't. It was raining, it was not nice weather, so we left a lot of the stuff in the truck. Now, the insurance adjusters came, they looked at the truck, they took it to their own yard, and I spoke to the guy who was responsible for examining my vehicle and determining if it was repairable or not. He basically took one look at it and went, this is a write-off. And I actually spoke to him the other day, and he'd said, look, you so much of the truck was twisted. I'd obviously damaged the cab, Adira's cab. I damaged the bed, which would have needed to be replaced. So it would have been a new bed and a new cab. There was also some concern about whether the chassis rails were safe, and there was some mention that maybe I would have needed to have replaced those as well. So at that point, you know, it's basically a new truck, and that's before you even consider the battery and the safety of the battery. And he did kind of say he was concerned about the safety of the battery after that kind of an impact. So Adira was written off. And because Adira was in really good condition, I looked after Adira, I had a ceramic coating, they valued Adira very highly. I was really surprised. The money we got back from the insurance was enough to pay off Adira's loan and enough to pay off to pay for some of the features that I had put in, some of the aftermarket things. My insurance is a very comprehensive insurance. I've always believed in having fully comprehensive insurance, and I always pay pretty highly for it, and I have a pretty small deductible. Because of the cost of all of the aftermarket things, my insurance policy only covers $1,000 of aftermarket stuff, and I far exceeded that because, you know, the bed rug plus the tonneau cover plus the ceramic coating, that's sort of $7,000 right there. So the good news, though, is that they valued my truck highly enough that I was able to pay off my loan in full and pay for replacing all of the things that were custom on my truck. So I was very pleased about that. And if you watch the Patreon live stream, I know not everyone here is a Patreon, but if you watch the Patreon live stream, a couple of days ago, I went to my local Ford dealership and I picked up this truck, Meet Ortega. Yes, not after the salsa. This is another Star Trek reference. Ortega flies the ship. And Ortega is a name that one of you lovely people came up with in a live stream a couple of weeks ago. So I'm very, very grateful. I loved it so much I decided to go with it. Ortega is unfortunately not the blue that Adira Tal was. That was my favorite blue. Unfortunately, that was a launch color that's no longer offered by Ford for the F150 Lightning. And so I opted for the antimatter blue, which is a kind of a darker, more metallic blue. And that is what Ortega is, an antimatter blue F150 Lightning Lariat. To be clear, Ortega is a 2023 F150 Lightning, and that means that there are some features missing on this truck that were on Adira Tal. It's interesting what's different. So there's no onboard scales. They were removed I believe, midway through the 2022 model year F150, both the internal combustion engine and the electric versions, due to the chip shortage. I think I've probably used that feature once when I had Adira, so it's not something that I'm really going to miss. The other thing that's missing from this truck is you don't have the front camera washer for the 360-degree camera. You can add that aftermarket, and I will be doing that, and hopefully also figuring out a way of adding a rear washer as well, because the rear camera is the one that always gets really muddy. The other thing that wasn't standard for the 2023 model year, although I added it as an optional extra because you can for 2023, is the foldable, lockable under rear seat storage area, which is about a $255 option, and this truck had it from the factory, so I found a truck that met my specifications, and that's why we ended up with Ortega. The actual structure and design of the foldable, lockable storage is different for this truck compared to Adira Tal, and I think this one is a little bit more integrated and refined, but I don't know if it's going to be as robust, and I won't know until I've used it in anger, but I will keep you appraised of that. Interestingly, a couple of things that people might assume this truck doesn't have, that it does. It does have a heated seat. It does have a heated steering wheel. I know that they were making them without heated steering wheels for a while. And it does have an AM and an FM radio. I know there was some talk about some models dropping the AM radio, but I do have AM and FM on the radio. The other thing that is deleted from this is it has an alarm, you know, a standard alarm, but it doesn't have the advanced security package. I think it doesn't have the tilt sensors, so if your truck gets towed, it won't go off. I believe that's what's different between this and Adira Tal. Why didn't I go for a 24? Well, the 24s add back the onboard scales, which would have been nice, right? But they delete some important features that I really use a lot. The first one is it doesn't appear that you have that under-seat lockable foldable storage anymore for 24. No one seems to see it on any of the option lists. You also get a less powerful onboard charger. So the 22 and the 23 F150 Lightnings, if you have the extended range models, you have 80 amp capable onboard charging, and that means if you have a Ford Charge Station Pro, the original one, it can charge at up to 80 amps or 20 kilowatts from an AC power source. Now, a lot of people don't have the spare capacity in their homes to do that. We're lucky, we have a 320 amp supply. We thought it was 200. Turns out it's 320 amps. And so if we have a power cut and the power goes off and the truck powers the house, and I've already tested, Ortega does do the home integration system perfectly, flawlessly. If there's a power cut and then the power comes back on and then goes back off again, which is something that's happened multiple times while we've lived where we live, having a 20 kilowatt onboard charger means that you can get significant amounts of power back into the truck, so that if the power goes back off again, you're not kind of left with a partially charged battery. So that was an important thing for me. While the 2024 model year F150 does lose that 20 kilowatt onboard charger, you do get a heat pump, which means the truck is more efficient in cold weather. It doesn't use as much energy to heat the cabin because heat pumps are much better at heating the cabin with less energy compared to a resistive heater. And a lot of people are like, well, why didn't you go for a heat pump? Heat pumps are better. Heat pumps are better, but this truck's battery pack is so massive, even with a resistive heater, I need to stop before the truck does. So I don't road trip in the winter all that much, and when I do, I always need to stop and pee before the truck needs to charge. So that is not a big concern to me. And it's more important that I get 20 kilowatt onboard chargers. The other thing that's different between the 23 and the 24 is Blue Cruise. You do get Blue Cruise, and you get Blue Cruise, I think 1.3 straight out of the gate. But I use Blue Cruise a lot, and for the 2024 model year, instead of getting 3 years of free Blue Cruise, which is what you do for the 2022 and 2023, the 2024 model year, you get 90 days. And then you have to pay $2,200, I think, for adding that 3 years, or then you have to pay $800 a year or whatever. And I didn't want to do that. Eventually, I will put comma into the truck, and there are people working on an open pilot solution for the F150 Lightning and the F150 Ice version. But for now, I'm like, Blue Cruise works, I like it. I just want to have that as the standard. So those are the reasons why I made the decision I did. Moving forwards, I'm going to be making some videos. We're going to do hopefully a video talking about the bed rug install and also the tonneau cover install. I'll make some tweaks to this vehicle using ForeScan, because that's what I had previously done with Adira, and I liked some of the changes that I'd made. And yes, that's ForeScan, F-O-R-S-C-A-N. None of you dirty-minded people there. It's not what I'm saying. The other word that sounds like ForeScan. So I'll make those tweaks. I also will probably make a few other changes to the truck, as I've already noted, some changes I've got planned that will be pretty cool. And the final thing is, I do want to note that there are a few things that are different. So the front trunk now has an emergency release cover as standard, which is very interesting. And you also lose the center console 12-volt accessory outlet. I don't know why. It's just weird things. Anyway, I am here at Fresh Start Detail, so there'll be more truck stuff coming very soon. Thanks for joining me today, and if you've got thoughts, make sure you leave them below in our Discord chat room, or you can reach out to us on Mastodon. Thanks to the amazing list of people scrolling by on your screen right now. They are more than some of the 1,500 people who help fund this channel through Patreon, YouTube, and Ko-fi, covering our bills, paying our team, and making sure we can be 100% independent. If you'd like to join them and see your name listed here, just follow the links below. There are a range of different tiers you can sign up for, from as little as $1 a month, or if you pay yearly, just over $10 a year. A huge welcome to our newest supporters: Ken F22, Tom Stovall, Sean Harper, Jeffrey Anderson, Welly Yee, James Fearnley, Rebecca Fussell, SRS 5694, Jack Rupel, BMW K1, Larry Ronning, Sean K, MD, Did Great, Mike Kainka, Mario Murillo, Dave Nelson, Abraham Palmer, Ed Beeler, and Peter Nelson. To join the list and get your shout out, become a paid Patreon member for your week of fame. If you'd like to support us with a one-off donation, you'll find links below to make Ko-fi and Bitcoin donations, and we even have a good old-fashioned PO box you can reach us at. The address is linked below. Also, if you're in need of some swag, you'll find out our swag store in the down below. This month, we are celebrating wrangling EV FUD with an awesome new design by our in-house artist and animator, Erin. Get yours today by heading to our Redbubble store. We've got some great content coming up, so make sure you're subscribed on PeerTube or YouTube, and we'll see you soon. We make new videos every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. If you want more, the mighty algorithm thinks you'll like this video, but we also think that this one is well worth a look. See you soon, and as always, keep evolving!